Hello everyone, I'm Ratri Istania. I'm your associate professor. I'm going to teach you about the policy formulations method. Today the topic is how to use evidence to formulate policy recommendation. So what we're going to discuss today is about policy, but the specific things about the policy is how to formulate policy with the good analytical skills and also the applications of tools. If you're seeing the presentations today that I'm going to deliver to you, there's a quote from Noam Chomsky. It's about there is a tremendous gap between public opinion and public policy. So what's in it in that quote that we need to really think about? There is a gap, public policy and public opinion. Things that have been said in public opinion does not necessarily translate to public policy. So how we can use or utilize evidence using tools that can translate it directly into the policy recommendations. That's what really matters. Therefore, evidence is important. When we're looking into data and evidence collections, we might want to know how we identify or structure the problems very correctly. So one of the things that I recommend you to read is a practical guide for policy analysis from Barda and Patasnik 2019. Their books talking about the 8-fold path to more effective problem solving. So number one, let me break down into steps. The first one is more thinking, less hustling of data. What does it mean? Do not rush yourself. Collect the data in timely manner, and also you have to know exactly what you're collecting. Do not push yourself to the limit. Only if you know that the data is there or you need to dig more. The second, time pressure danger. Like I said before, do not rush yourself. If you have a deadline, then think through, walk back, and you have to plan it out. The third, collect data that can be turned into information that can be used as evidence. Don't just scrambling and collecting data. You won't find anything, but things that can be turned into information, that's your priority. Fourth, evidence affect the existing belief of important people. So you have to know data can influence people thinking, and that's what you're aiming for. Think before you collect. Seldom do because easier to gather and look productive. People tend to imitate that they are busy, but they are not. So you have to think before you collect the data. So then we go to the next step. A question about, is data useful? To whom? For whom? Do literature review and survey other best practices. That's the most important thing, because we have to know the whole universe of those research that's been out there that we can use as a foundation for our analysis. Use analogies of similar problems. There are newspaper, bottle recycling can be analogous to what we are doing. Get into requests out early, so you distribute all the things that you've been collecting so far, asking people whether it is right, whether your assumption is correct, your data collected is correct or not. The last one, do not ignore those who disagree. Critical thinking requires people who think critically. Criticism is okay as long as it can be productive to your data collections. The next thing is about the applications of policy analysis tools for policy alternatives. So this is very important. The next steps after you identify problem, then you have to analyze, right? Then you come up with recommendations, but you don't come up with only recommendations that you think that is right. There is tools that can be applied to it. One of the tools that I would like to recommend is the Eisenhower matrix. So that help you to identify which the priority from those alternatives that you already so far analyzed. This is about the pair. There is 4 quadrants divided by not important and urgent pair, important urgent pair, and not urgent and not important pair. So there are 4 quadrants, remember. The first one, the combination between important and urgent, for instance. it requires you to do the do, which is tasks with deadlines or consequences. Then the combination between not important and urgent will require you to delegate. What is it delegate? Tasks that must get done but don't require your specific skill set. The next, important, not urgent pair. Schedule. Tasks with unclear deadlines that contribute to long-term success. Then, the last one, not important and not urgent pair will contribute to delete, which means that distractions and unnecessary tasks. Next thing, so how to transform research to policy recommendation. There are several steps that you can do. After you know the problem, you collect the data and you turn that into the analysis, and then you use tools. But then you have articles, you want to translate it into the policy, how to do it. So I'm giving you examples in here. For instance, there is an article. It's about policy research. It's about COVID-19, how the indigenous populations translate whatever they're thinking, whatever they're anticipating to the policy to adapt with COVID-19. So one of the things that you have to pay attention is the abstract. The abstract can give you whole ideas about what's going on in policy research paper that you can start to think about. Oh, there's recommendation. Oh, maybe I should turn that into the policy. Then when you see the analysis, you have to be very careful because a policy needs to be accompanied with evidence or data that's sufficient enough to support your argument. Then there is this policy alternatives that finally you need to have. Those alternatives needs to be treated with policy analysis tools, which I recommend to you to use the Eisenhower matrix. So here's how you do it, and here's how you produce important, urgent, important, not urgent, not important, urgent, and not important, not urgent. This can help you to prioritize the policy recommendations. In the end, you can see how those policy recommendations has been lined up, prioritizing between 1, 2, 3, and 4's deleted. So in that way, the policy can be implemented. Should that be implemented after you give the recommendations to the policymaker, they will exactly know how to prioritize, how to distribute or allocate the budget, then how to act accordingly. There is an exercise you have to do after this. This is my own paper with my friends, of course, about the authoritarian nostalgia and democratic decline in contemporary Indonesia, just recently published. I want you to do exactly the steps to identify problems like I said before, and then produce policy recommendations that I've already said to you. Okay, I think that's the end of my lecture. We'll see you again in the next session. Goodbye.
Sekian Sobat Setia untuk video pembelajarannya hari ini. Jangan lupa like, komen, dan subscribe. Sampai ketemu lagi di video pembelajaran berikutnya.